Have you ever felt your heart beating fast just because you needed to speak English? Imagine you are standing in a shop, or perhaps you are on a telephone call, and suddenly your mind goes completely blank. The words are there, somewhere deep inside your head, but they are stuck. You feel heat rising in your cheeks. You feel pressure. This is a very common feeling, but here is the secret that nobody tells you. That pressure is actually the wall stopping you from becoming fluent. Today, we are going to break down that wall, not with force, but with relaxation. Welcome to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex, and I am so glad you have decided to join me today for a special kind of English practice. This session is designed to help you reach a B1 level and beyond, but we are going to do it differently. We are going to learn without stress. We are going to learn by letting go. If you are ready to change the way you feel about English, make sure you are sitting comfortably, take a deep breath, and let's begin. When we try too hard to learn, our brains actually shut down. Think of your mind like a fist. When you are nervous or trying to force the grammar to be perfect, your mind is tight like a closed fist. Nothing can get in, and nothing can get out. But when you relax, when you simply listen and enjoy the flow of the language, your mind opens up like an open hand. Today, I want you to simply listen. Do not worry about understanding every single word. Do not worry about memorizing grammar rules. Just let the English wash over you like water. By doing this, you are telling your brain that English is safe. And when your brain feels safe, it learns much faster. To help us practice this relaxed state, I want to tell you a story. Stories are powerful because our brains are designed to remember them. Following a character and their journey is much easier than memorizing a list of vocabulary words. So, let's meet a young man named Leo. Leo is someone very much like you. He has studied English for a few years in school. He knows the grammar rules. He can read a textbook. But Leo has a problem. He is afraid to speak, and he finds it hard to understand native speakers when they talk fast. Leo recently moved to a new city called Rivertown, where people speak English all the time. He moved there for a new job at a graphic design company. He was excited, but mostly he was terrified. On his very first morning in Rivertown, Leo decided to go out for breakfast. The sun was shining, and the streets were busy with people walking to work. Leo felt brave. He wanted to buy a coffee and a croissant. He practiced the sentence in his head over and over again. He thought to himself, "I would like a large coffee and a croissant, please." He repeated it silently. "I would like a large coffee and a croissant, please." He felt ready. He walked into a small, cozy cafe on the corner of the street. The smell of roasted coffee beans and fresh, sweet bread filled the air. It was a wonderful smell, but Leo was too nervous to enjoy it. He stood in the line. There were 3 people ahead of him. He listened to them ordering. They spoke so quickly. They used words he did not expect. One woman said she wanted a skinny latte with a dash of cinnamon. Leo started to panic. He did not know what a dash meant. Did he need to know that word? His heart started to beat faster. Finally, it was Leo's turn. The barista was a young woman with bright blue hair and a friendly smile. She looked at Leo and asked him how he was doing. Leo froze. He had practiced his order, but he had not practiced answering a question about her feelings. He stuttered. He tried to say his prepared sentence, but it came out wrong. He simply said, "Coffee, please." The barista smiled patiently and asked if he wanted milk or sugar. Leo nodded his head quickly, paid with cash, and took his cup. He forgot to order the croissant. He walked out of the cafe feeling defeated. He sat on a bench in a nearby park and looked at his coffee. He felt like he had failed. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and think about Leo. Do you recognize that feeling? Leo made the mistake of thinking that communication must be perfect. He thought that if he made a mistake, something bad would happen. But let's look at the reality. Did the barista get angry? No. Did she laugh at him? No. She smiled and gave him his coffee. Leo communicated. He got what he wanted, mostly. The only thing that hurt Leo was his own pressure. This is a great lesson for us. In this session, I want you to be kinder to yourself than Leo was. You are allowed to make mistakes. Mistakes are just proof that you are trying. Let's continue with Leo's story and see how he learned to relax. A few days later, Leo was at his new office. His desk was next to a man named Sam. Sam was older, very relaxed, and always had a cup of tea on his desk. Sam noticed that Leo was very quiet. At lunchtime, Sam turned to Leo and asked if he wanted to join him for a walk. Leo wanted to say no because he was afraid of having a long conversation, but he did not want to be rude. So, he said yes. They walked out of the office building and towards the river that ran through the center of the city. For the first few minutes, they walked in silence. Leo was desperately trying to think of correct English sentences in his head. He was translating from his native language, checking the grammar, and then deciding it wasn't good enough to say. His brain was working very hard. Finally, Sam stopped and pointed at the river. He said, "Look at the water, Leo. It just flows. It doesn't try to go around the rocks. It just moves." Leo looked at the water. It was peaceful. Sam continued speaking. He said, "You know, Leo, I can see you are thinking very hard every time you speak. You are translating everything." Leo nodded. He admitted that he was afraid of making errors. Sam laughed softly. He told Leo that even native speakers make errors. He told Leo that connection is more important than perfection. Sam gave Leo a challenge. He said, "For the rest of this walk, I want you to stop thinking about grammar. I want you to only use simple words. If you don't know a word, just use your hands or describe it. Just keep the river flowing." Leo took a deep breath. He looked at a large tree near the path. He wanted to say it was magnificent, but he couldn't remember the word. So he simply said, "That tree is very big and beautiful." Sam smiled and agreed. Leo pointed to a dog playing with a ball. He said, "The dog is happy." Sam agreed again. They walked for 20 minutes. Leo spoke in short, simple sentences. He felt a strange sensation. His shoulders dropped, his stomach unclenched. He was speaking English, and he wasn't tired. He realized that by simplifying his thoughts, he could speak more fluently. This is a key strategy for B1 learners. Often, we get stuck because we want to express complex ideas that we have in our native language, but we don't have the English vocabulary for them yet. This creates a gap, and in that gap, we feel panic. The solution is to simplify. If you cannot say, "I am experiencing a great deal of anxiety about this project," you can simply say, "I am worried about this work." It means almost the same thing, but it is much easier to say. Fluency is not about knowing every word in the dictionary. Fluency is the ability to keep the conversation going without long pauses. It is about working with what you have, just like a chef cooking a meal with whatever ingredients are in the fridge. Let's go back to Leo in Rivertown. A few weeks passed. Leo practiced Sam's advice. He stopped trying to sound like a professor and started allowing himself to sound like a learner. He went back to the cafe with the barista who had the blue hair. This time, when he stood in line, he didn't rehearse a script. He just listened to the music playing in the shop. When he reached the counter, the barista recognized him. She asked if he wanted his usual coffee. Leo smiled. He felt relaxed. He decided to try a little more. He said, "Yes, please. And today, I will try the croissant too. The weather is nice, isn't it?" The barista beamed at him. She agreed that the weather was lovely. Leo grabbed his coffee and his croissant. He walked out feeling like a champion. He had had a small conversation. It wasn't Shakespeare, but it was real connection. Leo's confidence began to grow in other areas too. He started listening to the radio in English while he cooked dinner. In the past, he would try to understand every single word. If you miss a word, let it go like a bubble floating away. Another word will come. Trust that the context will help you understand. This is how you build intuition. Intuitive language usage comes from exposure, not from memorization. Let's think about the phrase, "How are you?" When you hear this, do you think about the verb to be and the subject pronoun you? No. You just understand the meaning instantly. That is because you have heard it thousands of times. You want to reach that level with more complex phrases. That only happens through massive amounts of listening practice where you are not stressed. You need to flood your brain with English that you enjoy. This brings us to an important point. Interest. Leo started learning faster when he talked about things he cared about, like his mother's cooking. You should do the same. If you love football, listen to English commentary on football matches. If you love cooking, watch recipes on YouTube in English. When you are interested in the topic, you forget that you are studying. You focus on the message, not the language. This is the key to the door of fluency. As we continue our journey, we must face a new challenge. We have mastered the face-to-face interaction, but now we must tackle one of the biggest fears for any language learner. It is small, it is usually black or silver, and it sits on your desk or in your pocket. I am talking about the telephone. Speaking face-to-face is one thing. You can use your hands, you can smile, and you can point at things. But on the phone, you are blind. You have only your ears and your voice. This can cause a lot of pressure. But remember our rule. Pressure builds walls, and relaxation builds bridges. In this session, we will learn how to stay calm when the phone rings, and how to understand English even when you cannot see the speaker's face. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and let's return to the city of Rivertown. It was a rainy Tuesday morning in Rivertown. Rain in this city was not gentle. It drummed loudly against the glass windows of Leo's office. Leo was sitting at his desk, working on a design on his computer. He felt relatively calm. He had been practicing his relaxed listening. He was getting better at chatting with Sam, his colleague, during lunch breaks. But the office environment had different challenges. On Leo's desk sat a telephone. For the first few weeks, it had remained silent. Leo was grateful for that silence. He treated the phone like a sleeping tiger. If he didn't touch it, it wouldn't bite him. But today, the tiger woke up. The ringtone was loud and sharp. Brrring, brrring. Leo jumped in his chair. His heart immediately started to race. He looked around. Sam was away from his desk. There was nobody else nearby to answer it. The phone kept ringing. Every ring felt like a demand. "Pick me up. Speak English now." Leo's hands started to sweat. He stared at the device. His mind began to create nightmare scenarios. What if the person speaks too fast? What if they use technical words I don't know? What if I don't understand, and I hang up by mistake? The fear paralyzed him. The ringing stopped. The caller had given up. Leo let out a long breath, but he didn't feel relieved. He felt guilty. He felt like he was hiding. Sam returned a few minutes later with 2 cups of tea. He saw Leo looking pale and staring at the phone. Sam, being the observant friend he was, put the tea down and asked Leo what was wrong. Leo confessed. He told Sam that he was terrified of the phone because he couldn't see the person's lips moving. He explained that, without seeing the face, the words sounded like a blurry stream of noise. Sam nodded understandingly. He pulled his chair closer and said, "Leo, you are trying to hear everything with your ears, but you are forgetting to listen with your brain. When we are on the phone, we don't need to hear every single syllable. We only need to catch the key words." Sam proposed a training exercise. He called it the pizza method. Leo looked confused. Sam explained, "Imagine you are ordering a pizza. What are the important pieces of information? Size, toppings, address, and price. That is it. Everything else, the polite greetings, the small talk, the questions about the weather, is just decoration. It is the crust. You don't need the crust to enjoy the pizza." Sam told Leo that the next time the phone rang, he shouldn't try to transcribe the whole sentence in his head. He should just listen for the key words. Who is calling? What do they want? When do they need it? Leo decided to try this. He didn't have to wait long. An hour later, the phone rang again. Leo took a deep breath. He visualized the open hand. He picked up the receiver. A woman's voice spoke on the other end. She was speaking very fast. Leo felt the panic rising, but he remembered the pizza. He ignored the fast greeting. He waited for a word he recognized. Suddenly, he heard it. Meeting. Then he heard Thursday. And finally, room 3B. The woman kept talking, but Leo had his ingredients. Meeting. Thursday. Room 3B. When the woman paused, Leo spoke calmly. He didn't try to make a complex sentence. He simply confirmed the details. He said, "Okay, meeting on Thursday in room 3B. Is that correct?" The woman said, "Yes, that's right. Thanks, Leo." And she hung up. Leo put the phone down slowly. He was stunned. He had missed about 70% of the words she had said. He didn't know if she was happy or sad. He didn't know exactly why she was calling so fast. But he had the information. He had succeeded. This is a crucial lesson for you as a listener. Often, we feel pressure because we think we need to be a recording device. We think we must capture every sound. But in reality, you are a detective. You are looking for clues. If you catch the clues, you solve the mystery. The rest is just noise. Now, let's go back to Leo. Conquering the work phone was a big step, but he still had a challenge in his personal life. He needed to call his landlord. The heater in his apartment was making a strange noise, like a metal drum banging in the night. It kept him awake. He had delayed making the call for 3 days because he was afraid of the landlord, Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was an old man with a very thick accent and a grumpy voice. Calling him was the ultimate test for Leo. Leo sat on his sofa on a Saturday morning. He wrote down what he wanted to say on a piece of paper. This is a great tip for B1 learners. Preparation reduces pressure. If you have to make a call, write down your opening sentence. Leo wrote, "Hello, Mr. Henderson. This is Leo from apartment 4. My heater is making a loud noise." He read it aloud twice. Then he dialed the number. The phone rang 4 times. Then a gruff voice answered, "Yeah? What is it?" Leo's throat went dry. The greeting was not what he expected. He expected, "Hello?" This, "yeah," threw him off balance. But he looked at his paper. He read his sentence. "Hello, Mr. Henderson. This is Leo from apartment 4. My heater is making a loud noise." There was silence on the other end. Then Mr. Henderson spoke. He spoke for a long time. He mumbled. He used slang. Leo didn't understand anything. The panic returned. The paper couldn't help him now. He felt the urge to just say, "Okay, thank you," and hang up, even though nothing was solved. This is a common reaction. We pretend to understand, to avoid embarrassment. But Leo remembered Sam's advice about the river. Go with the flow, but steer the boat. He realized he had a tool he hadn't used yet. The power of honesty. He took a breath and interrupted Mr. Henderson politely. He said, "I am sorry, Mr. Henderson. The line is not very good. Can you please say that again? Slowly?" This was a little white lie. The line was fine, but it gave Leo control. Mr. Henderson grunted, but he slowed down. He said, I will come on Monday morning to fix it." Leo smiled. He understood. He confirmed, "Monday morning." "Thank you." When Leo ended the call, he felt a rush of adrenaline. He realized something profound. The person on the other end of the phone wants to be understood just as much as you want to understand them. If you ask them to slow down or to repeat, they are usually happy to do it because it helps them too. You are not being a burden. You are managing the conversation. You are the captain of the ship. A few weeks after the heater incident, Leo met a new friend. Her name was Maya. Maya was from a different country than Leo, but she was also learning English. They met at a local library where there was a free conversation club. Maya was very different from Leo. Leo was careful and precise. Maya was chaotic and loud. She spoke English with a heavy accent. She mixed up he and she constantly. And she invented words when she didn't know them. But the amazing thing was, everyone loved talking to her. One evening, they went to get ice cream after the club. Maya ordered the pink ball of cold milk because she forgot the word for strawberry ice cream. The server laughed, but he understood instantly and gave her the strawberry scoop. Leo watched this with fascination. He asked Maya, "Don't you feel embarrassed when you make mistakes?" Maya licked her ice cream and laughed. She said, "Leo, why should I be embarrassed? I am learning a superpower. 2 years ago, I could not order water in this country. Now I am eating pink cold milk. That is a victory. Every mistake is just a funny story for later." Maya taught Leo the value of humor. Tension creates stiffness in the jaw and the tongue. Laughter loosens everything up. When you laugh at your own mistakes, you take the power away from the fear. Leo continued his life in Rivertown, finding that the combination of Sam's logic, listening for keywords, and Maya's spirit, laughing at mistakes, was the perfect recipe. But soon he faced a new hurdle: the job interview. Leo had been working at the graphic design company for about 8 months. He was happy there. But one Monday morning, an email arrived that changed everything. The company was looking for a new senior designer. It was a promotion. It meant more money, more responsibility, and leading a small team. Leo read the email 3 times. His heart said, "Yes, I can do this." But his brain said, "No, you cannot do the interview in English." The old doubt came rushing back. He imagined sitting in a room with the bosses, trying to explain his design philosophy, and forgetting all his vocabulary. He imagined them staring at him in silence. He almost deleted the email. But then he looked over at Sam. Sam was calmly drinking his tea. Leo remembered the river. He remembered that he had navigated the difficult phone call with his landlord. He realized that fear was just a feeling, not a fact. He decided to apply. He printed out the application form. The easy part was the portfolio. His designs spoke for themselves. The hard part was the interview scheduled for Friday afternoon. He had 4 days to prepare. Leo went to his friend Maya for advice. Maya told him that in an interview, nobody is grading his grammar. They are grading his personality and his skills. She gave him a brilliant piece of advice. She called it the movie method. Maya explained that when we answer questions in an interview, we often try to give a list of facts. I went to school here. I worked there. I learned this software. That is boring. Humans love stories. Maya told Leo to think of his answers like short scenes in a movie. Every scene needs a hero. Leo, a problem, a difficult design or a tight deadline, and a happy ending, the solution. She said, "Leo, don't worry about complex grammar. Just tell the story simply. First, this happened. Then, I did this. Finally, the result was this." This structure, beginning, middle, end, is universal. It works in every language. Leo spent the next 3 days practicing the movie method. He didn't write down long, complicated scripts. Instead, he made bullet points of his best stories. He thought about the time a client hated a blue logo and how he convinced them to try green. He thought about the time his computer crashed an hour before a deadline and how he stayed calm and finished the work. He focused on keeping the sentences short. The client was angry, he said to his reflection. I listened to him. I changed the color. He was happy. It was simple, but it was powerful. It was the truth. Friday arrived. Leo put on his best shirt. He walked into the meeting room. 2 managers were sitting there. One was Mr. Evans, a tall man with glasses who looked very serious. The other was Ms. Garcia, who had a kind smile. They shook Leo's hand and asked him to sit down. The interview began. The first question was the one everyone expects, but everyone fears. Tell us about yourself. In the past, Leo would have tried to construct a complex sentence about his entire life history. He would have gotten stuck on the dates and the prepositions. But today, he used a technique Sam had taught him: the timeline. Sam had told him to visualize 3 buckets: the past bucket, the present bucket, and the future bucket. You just take one item from each bucket. Leo took a breath. He smiled. He started with the past bucket. I grew up in a small town, and I always loved drawing. Then he moved to the present bucket. Now, I really enjoy working here as a junior designer because the team is great. Finally, the future bucket. In the future, I want to lead projects and help new designers. That was it. He didn't use fancy connecting words. He didn't use the passive voice. He just moved from bucket to bucket. Mr. Evans nodded. Ms. Garcia wrote something down. They understood him perfectly. The simplicity showed confidence. It showed that he knew who he was. Then came the harder questions. Mr. Evans looked at a paper and asked, Leo, Tell us about a time you faced a challenge at work and how you handled it. This was the moment for the movie method. Leo felt a spike of adrenaline, but he visualized the scene in his head. He chose the story of the computer crash. He didn't try to explain the technical details of why the computer broke. That would require vocabulary he didn't have. He focused on the action. "Last year," Leo began, "I had a very big project. The deadline was 5 p.m. He paused to let them imagine the clock ticking. At 4 p.m., my screen went black. I lost the file. Ms. Garcia gasped slightly. She was engaged in the story. Leo continued. I was very stressed, but I didn't panic. I called the IT support immediately. While they fixed it, I sketched the design on paper. When the computer came back at 4:30, I worked very fast. I finished at 4:55. Leo smiled. The client loved it. Both managers smiled back. Leo realized something incredible. Because he was using simple language, he had space in his brain to add emotion. He could use his voice to show how stressful it was. He could use his face to show his relief. If he had been trying to use a sentence like, "Despite the unforeseen technical difficulties which jeopardized the project," he would have been a robot. He would have had no emotion. By keeping the English simple, he allowed his human personality to shine through. And that is what they were hiring. A human, not a dictionary. 2 days later, Leo was called back into the office. Mr. Evans told him that his English was not perfect, but his communication was excellent. They liked that he was calm under pressure. They liked that he could tell a clear story. They offered him the job. Leo was going to be a senior designer. Leo's promotion changed his daily life. He was now leading meetings. This was a new challenge. In a one-on-one conversation, you can control the speed. In a meeting with 5 people, the conversation moves like a ping-pong ball, fast and unpredictable. Leo found himself sitting in meetings, turning his head left and right, trying to follow who was speaking. At first, he stayed silent, nodding his head like a toy dog. He was afraid to interrupt the flow. But Sam noticed this. Sam told him, "Leo, if you don't speak in the first 5 minutes, it becomes harder and harder to speak later. The silence becomes a wall." Sam suggested the early entry strategy. The goal is to say something very early in the meeting, even if it is just, "Good morning, everyone," or "I agree with that point." Breaking the silence early tells your brain, I am a participant here, not an audience member. Leo tried this at the next Monday morning meeting. As soon as his boss mentioned the new schedule, Leo spoke up. He simply said, "That sounds like a good plan." It was 5 words, but saying them broke the seal. He felt his voice vibrate in the room. He felt part of the group. As we move forward, Leo's world is going to get bigger. He is comfortable at work now, but what about his social life? What about dating? What about understanding jokes and slang? These are the nuances that make a language feel like home. Leo was settling into his new role as senior designer. He felt good at work. But when the clock struck 5 p.m. and he went home to his apartment, he often felt lonely. He had colleagues, yes, but he didn't really have close friends yet. He wanted to connect, but he was afraid. He thought, I can talk about design software, but can I talk about life? Can I be funny in English? Humor is often the final boss of language learning. It is very hard to be funny when you are translating in your head. One Friday afternoon, Sam stopped by Leo's desk. "Hey, Leo," Sam said. "A few of us are going to a quiz night at the local pub tonight. You should come along. It'll be a blast. Leo froze. A pub? A quiz? That sounded like a nightmare. Loud music, fast talking, and general knowledge questions about things he didn't know. He hesitated. He wanted to say no. He wanted to go home and watch Netflix with subtitles. But he remembered his promise to himself. Say yes to life. Okay, Leo said. I will come. When they arrived at the pub, the atmosphere was warm and noisy. People were laughing and shouting. Leo felt his shoulders go up towards his ears, the physical sign of tension. He consciously dropped them down. Relax, he told himself. Just listen. He sat with Sam and a few other colleagues. Then a woman sat down opposite him. She had kind eyes and a bright smile. Hi, I'm Clara, she said. I work in accounting. I've heard you're the new design wizard. Leo smiled. I am Leo, he said. I don't know if I am a wizard, but I try. Clara laughed. It was a good start. But then the conversation sped up. The group started talking about their weekend plans. Someone said, I'm going to hit the sack early tonight. Leo was confused. Hit the sack? Why would he hit a bag? Was he angry? Then another person said, Oh, don't be such a wet blanket, Mike. A wet blanket? Leo looked at the table. There were no blankets. His brain started to panic. He felt like he was drowning in nonsense words. This is a classic moment for intermediate learners. You know the words hit and sack and wet and blanket. But when they are put together, they mean something completely different. These are idioms. Leo felt the urge to withdraw, to stop listening and just look at his phone. But he looked at Clara. She was looking at him, waiting for him to join in. Leo decided to use a new strategy. The context detective. He stopped trying to translate the words literally. Instead, he looked at the situation. When Mike said, hit the sack, he yawned and rubbed his eyes. The context was tiredness. So, hit the sack must mean go to sleep. When the other person called him a wet blanket, they looked disappointed that Mike was leaving early. So, a wet blanket must be someone who ruins the fun. Leo took a risk. He looked at Mike and said, If you hit the sack now, you will miss the winning question. The table went silent for a second, and then everyone cheered. Exactly, Sam shouted. Listen to Leo. Leo felt a warm glow in his chest. He had used an idiom correctly, just by copying the context. He didn't need a textbook definition. He just needed to observe. The lesson here is profound. English speakers love idioms. We use them all the time. Piece of cake, break a leg, under the weather. Do not try to memorize lists of thousands of idioms. That is boring and ineffective. Instead, be a detective. Watch the person's face. Watch their body language. The meaning is usually hidden in the action, not the words. And if you are really stuck, just ask. It is a great conversation starter. I have never heard that phrase, wet blanket, before. What does it visualize? People love explaining their own language. It makes them feel smart, and it helps you learn. During a break in the quiz, Leo found himself alone with Clara, while the others went to the bar. The noise of the pub faded into the background. Clara looked at him. You are quieter than Sam said, she observed gently. Leo felt a moment of shame. My English. He started to apologize. It is hard for me in the noise. I cannot find my words fast enough. Clara shook her head. You don't need to be fast, she said. You have a nice voice. It is calm. Everyone else is shouting, but you are listening. That is a rare quality. Leo looked at her. He realized she wasn't judging his grammar. She was appreciating his personality. This gave him a surge of confidence. He decided to ask her a real question, not just a small talk question. "What do you do when you are not accounting?" Leo asked. It was a slightly incorrect sentence. He should have said, "doing accounting." But Clara understood perfectly. Her face lit up. "I paint," she said. "I love watercolors." Leo's eyes widened. "I love painting too," he said, "but I do digital art. Painting with real water, that is scary. You cannot press undo." Clara laughed, a genuine loud laugh. "That is so true," she exclaimed. "You cannot press undo on life either." They looked at each other. It was a moment of deep connection. They were discussing philosophy, art, and life, using simple B1 vocabulary. Leo realized that you don't need C2-level words to have a deep soul connection. You just need honesty and the courage to share your thoughts. At the end of the night, the group was breaking up. People were putting on their coats. "Time to hit the road," Sam said. Leo smiled. He knew that one now. Time to leave. Clara turned to Leo. "This was fun," she said. "I am having an art exhibition next Saturday. Just a small one at a cafe. Would you like to come?" Leo's heart beat faster. This was it. A social invitation outside of work. A potential date? He didn't want to overthink it. He just wanted to say yes. "I would love to," Leo said. "I will be there." Leo walked home that night feeling different. The rain had stopped, and the street lights reflected on the wet pavement. He replayed the evening in his mind. He had misunderstood some idioms. He had made grammar mistakes. He had been quiet for parts of the night. But he had also shouted an answer. He had made a joke about the undo button. And he had made a connection with Clara. He realized that his English personality was growing. It wasn't exactly the same as his native personality. It was a little simpler, a little quieter, but it was still him. Leo and Clara had become good friends. They spent weekends exploring the city, drinking coffee and visiting galleries. Leo felt comfortable with her, but comfort can sometimes lead to carelessness. When we are nervous, we are very polite. We say please and thank you constantly. But when we relax, we sometimes forget the softeners. We become too direct. And in English, being too direct can sound like aggression. It was Sam's birthday coming up. Leo and Clara decided to organize a surprise dinner for him. They met at Leo's apartment to plan the menu. Leo was cooking his famous pasta, and Clara was in charge of the decorations and the cake. The kitchen was small and hot. Leo was chopping onions, and his eyes were stinging. He was a little stressed because he wanted everything to be perfect for his friend. Clara was standing by the table, looking at a list of guests. "I think we should invite the whole design team," she said happily. "About 15 people." Leo stopped chopping. 15 people? His apartment was tiny. He only had 6 chairs. In his native language, he would have said something like, "That's impossible. There's no space." It would have been a neutral fact, but in the heat of the moment, with his brain tired from the onions and the English, he translated it directly. He turned to Clara and said loudly, "No, that is a bad idea. We cannot do that." The room went silent. The happy energy vanished instantly. Clara looked at him, surprised and hurt. She stepped back. "Wow," she said softly. "You don't have to be so rude. I was just suggesting it." Leo froze. He hadn't meant to be rude. He just wanted to state the fact that the apartment was small. But his words, "bad idea," "no," were like stones. They were hard and sharp. Clara started to pack up her bag. "Maybe I should just let you decide everything," she said, her voice cold. "It is your apartment, after all." Leo felt a panic in his chest. This was not a grammar mistake. This was a relationship mistake. He was losing a friend because of his English. He wanted to shout, "Wait, I didn't mean it!" But he didn't know how to fix it. He didn't know the repair kit for this situation. Let's pause here and analyze what happened. English is a language that relies heavily on hedging. Hedging means using soft words to wrap up a hard opinion. Instead of saying, "That is bad," a native speaker says, "I am not sure that is the best idea." Instead of saying, "No," we say, "I see what you mean, but..." Leo used direct speech. Direct speech is efficient, but in social situations, it often feels like an attack. Leo took a breath. He remembered Sam's advice about the river. When the water hits a rock, it doesn't stop. It flows around it. He had to flow around this mistake. He put down the knife. He walked over to Clara. He looked her in the eyes. He needed a safety phrase, a phrase to restart the conversation. He said, "Clara, please wait. My English came out wrong. I did not mean to be aggressive." This is a magic phrase. My English came out wrong. It immediately tells the other person that the problem is the language, not the feeling. Clara stopped. She looked at him, still a little upset, but listening. Leo tried again. He used the sandwich method. This is where you put the negative point in between two positive points. The bread is positive, the meat is negative. "I love that you want to invite everyone," Leo said, positive bread. "But the apartment is very small for 15 people. Negative meat. So maybe we can invite the closest friends now and have a big party at the pub later?" Positive bread. Clara listened. Her face softened. The sandwich worked. It showed that he respected her idea, even if he disagreed with the logistics. "Okay," she said, putting her bag down. "That makes sense. You just sounded so angry." Leo smiled apologetically. "I know. I was fighting with the onions, and in my head, I was panicking about the chairs. I am sorry." Clara smiled back. "It's okay. Just don't bite my head off next time." This conflict taught Leo a valuable lesson about modals. Modals are words like could, should, might, would. They are the shock absorbers of the English language. They make the ride smoother. After that day, Leo started practicing his modals. Instead of, "Give me the salt," he practiced, "Could you pass the salt?" Instead of, "We must go now," he practiced, "We should probably go soon." It felt strange at first, almost like he was being fake. But he realized it wasn't fake. It was considerate. It was giving the other person a choice. The surprise party for Sam was a huge success. 6 people squeezed into Leo's apartment. The pasta was delicious. When Sam walked in, everyone shouted, "Surprise!" And Sam actually dropped his keys. He was so shocked. They ate, they drank, and they told stories. Leo sat at the head of the table, looking at his friends. He saw Sam laughing. He saw Clara explaining the wet blanket idiom to a new colleague. He looked around the room and realized something profound. He was speaking English, but he wasn't thinking about speaking English. He was just living. While Leo was mastering the art of conversation, another learner in Rivertown was facing a different problem. Her name was Elena. Elena is a talented classical guitarist. She has an incredible ear for music. She can hear a wrong note from across the room. But strangely, when she speaks English, she sounds completely flat. She treats English words like bricks, heavy, square, and all the same size. I am going to the shop. She puts a full stop after every word. Because of this, people often think she is bored or even annoyed, even when she is happy. One day, Elena was having lunch with a colleague named Sarah. Sarah was excited. She had just bought a new dress, and she showed it to Elena. "Look at this," Sarah said, beaming. "Isn't it beautiful?" Elena genuinely liked the dress. She wanted to be supportive, so she said, "That is very nice." But she said it with a flat, low pitch. "That is very nice." Sarah's smile disappeared. She looked hurt. "Oh," Sarah said. "Well, you don't have to like it." Elena was confused. She did like it. She had used the correct words. Why did the communication fail? It failed because of the music. In English, we use pitch to show emotion. If you say, "That is very nice," with a falling, flat tone, it sounds sarcastic. It sounds like you are lying. To show enthusiasm, your voice must go up. It must dance. "That is very nice." The word very should be higher and longer. Elena didn't know this rule. She thought words were just information. She didn't realize they were also feelings. Later that day, Elena was practicing her guitar in the studio. Her teacher, a wise old man named Mr. Thompson, was listening. He stopped her. "Elena," he said, "you are playing the notes correctly, but there is no feeling. You are just typing on the guitar. You need to make it sing." Elena sighed. "That is my problem with English, too," she admitted. "I feel like a robot." Mr. Thompson smiled. "English is just like jazz," he said. "It has a beat. It has swing. You are trying to speak it like a ticking clock. Tick, 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 tick. But English is not a clock. It is a heartbeat. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum." He explained a concept called stress-timed language. This sounds technical, but it is actually very simple. In some languages, every syllable takes the same amount of time, like a machine gun, rat-a-tat-tat. But English is different. In English, only the important words take time. The grammar words, like to, the, at, for, are crushed. They are tiny. Mr. Thompson gave Elena an exercise. He called it the rubber band method. I want you to imagine you are holding a thick rubber band between your thumbs. When you say a stressed word, an important word, you stretch the rubber band wide. When you say a grammar word, you let the rubber band relax. Let's try it with Elena. She looked at Mr. Thompson. She said, "I play the guitar." She stretched the imaginary band on play and guitar. It sounded different. It sounded alive. "I play the guitar." The rhythm was there. Elena started to experiment with this. She went to a bakery. She wanted a chocolate cake. Instead of saying, "I would like a chocolate cake," flatly, she thought about the rubber band. What are the important words? Like chocolate, cake. She took a breath. She imagined the music. "I would like a chocolate cake." The baker smiled at her. "Coming right up. You sound happy today." Elena was shocked. She didn't feel extra happy, but her voice sounded happy because of the rhythm. She realized that she could control how people perceived her just by changing the length of her words. But there was another challenge. The question intonation. Elena always sounded like she was making a statement, even when asking a question. In English, for yes-no questions, the voice usually goes up at the end, like a slide going up. "Are you hungry?" But for what questions, who, what, where, why, the voice often goes down. "Where are you going?" Elena practiced this with her neighbor's dog. She looked at the dog and asked, "Are you a good boy?" She made her voice go up high at the end. The dog wagged its tail. Then she tried the flat version. Are you a good boy? The dog stopped wagging. It was amazing. Even the dog responded to the music of the language. This brings us to a beautiful concept called shadowing. Shadowing is the best practice for B1 learners who want to improve their intonation. It involves listening to a native speaker and speaking along with them at the exact same time. Not repeating after them, speaking with them, like you are singing a duet. Elena started shadowing her favorite TV show characters. She would sit in front of the TV and mimic the actress. If the actress was angry and spoke fast, Elena spoke fast. If the actress was sad and slow, Elena was sad and slow. She began to feel the emotions of the language. She realized that English is very physical. You use your stomach, your throat, your lips. One evening, Elena had a performance with her guitar. She had to introduce her song to the audience. Usually, she mumbled this part. She hated speaking on stage. But tonight, she thought of Mr. Thompson. She thought of the heartbeat. Da-dum, da-dum. She walked to the microphone. The light was bright. She took a breath. Good evening, she said. Her voice was strong. It went up and down. This song is about winter, she said. She let the word winter sound cold and long. It is sad, but beautiful. The audience was silent. They were listening. They weren't just waiting for the music. They were engaged by her voice. Elena smiled. She played her guitar, and for the first time, her spoken English felt just as expressive as her music. Now, let us leave the art studio and go out into the busy streets. I want to introduce you to Raj. Raj is a taxi driver in a bustling metropolis. He drives a bright yellow cab. He meets 50, maybe 60 people every single day. Rich bankers, tired nurses, excited tourists, and grumpy students. Raj is the master of small talk. He has to be. If he stays silent for a 40-minute drive, the atmosphere in the car becomes stiff. If he talks too much, the passenger gets annoyed. He has to find the perfect balance. He calls this the temperature check. When a passenger gets into Raj's car, the first thing he does is check the temperature. Not the air conditioning, but the social temperature. He looks in the rearview mirror. Is the passenger on their phone? Are they closing their eyes? If so, Raj stays quiet. Silence is also a form of communication. But if the passenger looks out the window or makes eye contact, Raj throws out a test ball. A test ball is a very simple, low-pressure comment. Usually, it is about the one thing they are both experiencing at that exact moment: the weather. Students often laugh when I tell them to talk about the weather. They say it is a cliché, but Raj knows why it works. The weather is neutral. It is not political. It is not personal. It belongs to everyone. If Raj says the traffic is bad, the passenger might disagree. But if Raj says it is pouring rain out there, it is an undeniable fact. It is safe ground. But Raj doesn't just state the fact. He adds a tiny piece of opinion to invite a response. He doesn't just say, "It is hot." He says, "It is boiling today. I can't wait to get an ice cream." By adding, "I can't wait to get an ice cream," he gives the passenger two hooks to catch. The passenger can talk about the heat, or they can talk about ice cream. This is the open door technique. One of Raj's favorite grammatical tools for small talk is the question tag. This is something B1 learners often struggle with, but it is essential for sounding natural. A question tag is that little tail we put at the end of a sentence. It's cold, isn't it? You are American, aren't you? When Raj uses a falling intonation on the tag, he is asking for agreement. Crazy traffic, isn't it? The passenger sighs and says, yes, it's terrible. Boom. Connection established. Now they are two people suffering through traffic together, not just a driver and a client. But what happens after the opening? How do you keep the ball rolling without it falling? Raj uses a technique called the echo. Sometimes you don't know what to say. The passenger might say something about a topic you know nothing about. Passenger: I'm just heading to the convention center for the semiconductor conference. Raj knows nothing about semiconductors. A beginner learner might panic and say, okay. Conversation dead. But Raj uses the echo. He repeats the last important words with a questioning tone. Raj: the semiconductor conference. Passenger: yes, it's the biggest one of the year. Companies from all over the world are here. Raj: all over the world? Passenger: yeah, Japan, Germany, even Brazil. Raj didn't have to add any new information. He just acted like a mirror. By repeating the words, he showed he was listening, and he encouraged the passenger to explain more. People love to explain things. If you just give them the space, they will do the work for you. One day, Raj picked up our friend Leo. Yes, their worlds collided. Leo was going to the airport to visit his parents. He got into Raj's taxi. Raj looked in the mirror. Heading to the airport, sir? Leo smiled. Yes, going home for a week. Raj: going home. That is always a good feeling, isn't it? Leo: it is. I haven't seen my mother in a year. Raj: a year? She will be cooking a big feast for you then? Leo laughed. Oh yes, she will try to make me fat. They talked the whole way. Leo practiced his storytelling. Raj practiced his listening. By the time they reached the terminal, Leo felt warmed up for his trip. He gave Raj a good tip. Thanks for the chat, Leo said. My pleasure, Raj replied. Safe travels. This interaction shows the beauty of these fleeting connections. You might never see that taxi driver or that person in the elevator again. But for those 5 minutes, you shared a human moment. And every time you do it in English, you are proving to yourself that you are a speaker. Finally, we are going to a place of silence and magic. We are going to the library. Many people think that to learn English, you must speak, speak, speak. And yes, speaking is important. But there is a quiet power that can explode your vocabulary and glue your grammar together without you even opening your mouth. That power is reading. I want to introduce you to Sophie. Sophie is a librarian in the center of Rivertown. She loves books more than anything. But there is one book she hates. She keeps it hidden behind her desk. It is a giant, heavy, bilingual dictionary. Every day, she watches English learners come into her library. They choose a famous classic novel, like Charles Dickens or Jane Austen. They sit down with a look of determination. They open the book and they open the dictionary. They read one word. They stop. They look it up. They write the translation. They read the next word. They stop again. Sophie calls this the excavation. They are not reading. They are digging. After 20 minutes, they have read only half a page. Their notebook is full of words, but their faces look tired and sad. They close the book and never open it again. Sophie wants to save you from this trap. One rainy afternoon, a young student named Marcus came to her desk. Marcus was holding a copy of Hamlet. He looked exhausted. Sophie, he said, I am stupid. I have been reading this play for a week, and I still don't understand why the prince is angry. Sophie smiled gently. Marcus, she said, you are not stupid. You are just lifting a weight that is too heavy for you. You are trying to run a marathon before you can walk. She took Hamlet from his hands and put it away. She walked to a different shelf. She pulled out a thin, colorful paperback. It was a thriller story called The Midnight Spy. Marcus looked offended. "But this is a book for teenagers," he said. "I want to learn serious English." Sophie leaned in and whispered a secret. "The best way to learn serious English is to read fun English." She made him a deal. She told him to read the first chapter of the spy story without stopping. "If you see a word you don't know," she said, "jump over it. Imagine it is a puddle in the street. Don't step in it. Just jump and keep running." Marcus was skeptical, but he sat down. The language was modern. The sentences were short. The spy ran down the dark alley. He heard footsteps behind him. Marcus didn't need a dictionary for alley or footsteps because the context, the spy running, made it clear. He finished the chapter in 10 minutes. He looked up, and his eyes were bright. "He escaped," Marcus told Sophie. "He jumped onto a boat." Sophie laughed. "See," she said, "you just read 10 pages of English. You understood the plot. You enjoyed the emotion. That is reading." This is the philosophy of extensive reading. Intensive reading is what you do in a classroom, analyzing every word of a short text. Extensive reading is what you do for real life, reading long texts for the story. There is a rule for choosing the right book. It is called the 5-finger rule. Sophie teaches this to everyone. Open a book to any random page. Read it. Every time you see a word you do not know, put up 1 finger. If you find 0 or 1 unknown words, the book is too easy. If you find 2 or 3 unknown words, this is perfect. It is the Goldilocks zone. Challenging, but fluent. If you find 5 or more words, stop, put it back. It is too hard for now. Marcus used this rule. He found that Hamlet was a 10-finger book, but the spy novel was a 2-finger book. It was perfect for his level. Sophie also teaches a technique called the blank game. I will give you a sentence with a made-up word. I want you to guess what it means. The man was very hungry, so he went to the kitchen and made a delicious glorp. What is a glorp? Is it a car? No. Is it a dog? No. It must be a type of food. You don't need to know the exact definition to understand the story. Sophie taught Marcus to trust his intuition. Your brain is a puzzle-solving machine, she told him. Give it a clue, and it will find the answer. But if you give it a dictionary answer immediately, it stops working. It gets lazy. She also encourages the treasure hunt. Instead of trying to learn every new word, you decide to collect only 3 golden words per chapter. A golden word is a word that you love. Maybe it sounds beautiful. Maybe it is very useful. By the end of the book, you don't have a list of 500 boring words you will never remember. You have a collection of 50 words you loved. Because you chose them. You remembered them. We have covered so much in this series. We learned the open hand technique, relaxing your mind to let English in. We learned the pizza method for telephone calls, listening only for the key ingredients. We learned the movie method for interviews, telling your story in simple scenes. We learned the context detective for social English. We learned the sandwich method for conflict. We learned the rubber band method for intonation. We learned the temperature check for small talk. And we learned the 5-finger rule for reading. These are not just English tips. These are life skills. Being a good listener, being humble, being observant. These make you a better human, not just a better English speaker. I want to leave you with a final visualization. Close your eyes one last time. Imagine you are standing on the bank of a wide, beautiful river. This river is the English language. It flows through every country, connecting millions of people. You are not standing on the shore watching it. You are in a boat. You have the oars. The current is strong, but you are stronger. You are paddling calmly. You are not rushing to the ocean. You are enjoying the view. You wave to other boats, other learners, native speakers. You are part of this great flow. You belong here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this series. Writing this and speaking this to you has been a privilege. I hope Leo's story stays with you. When you feel stuck, ask yourself, what would Leo do? He would take a deep breath. He would smile. And he would try again. You are ready. You are capable. You are fluent enough to start living. This is Alex, signing off from English in Fluency. The end of the story is just the beginning of your practice. Go out there and speak. Goodbye, my friends.